Hey guys, what's happening? Had a few tips and tricks that I get a lot of questions on, so I want to try and address those to be a little bit more helpful. A lot of folks talk about sound attenuation and how does Havelock wool work in conjunction with this butyl-based rattle trap adhesive stuff. And I think the real answer is I can only speak for our product. We have a very high noise reduction coefficient, NRC. It's done on a 3.5-inch piece of material, and it is 0.9, which means it absorbs 90% of the sound. So I don't have information or data to tell you how that coincides with this rattle trap stuff. So a lot of folks that use our material, their initial response is that it's very quiet. But how it reacts with other materials, I don't know. It won't adversely affect mine, but I don't know how much that other material is going to add to the equation. You would want to ask the manufacturer of those products for more information on how it abates sound through ASTM testing or some sort of data they can provide. So we got that out of the way. Yeah, and a lot of folks ask, how much insulation should I put in my van? And the answer is not as much as you can, because the living area is so small you don't really want to compromise much of that. But the answer for me comes back to, are you going to use a heater? Because if you are not going to use a heater, then you're pretty much just delaying the inevitable. It's going to get cold in here at some point. You have to have a heat source or a cooling source, if you're in the desert, to maintain a conditioned space. But that being said, our own Sprinter is a number of years older, and the walls are a little bit thinner. It's about 2 inches all the way around. We did not insulate the floor. And with a Webasto heater in the Jackson Hole parking lot, 0 degrees, we're maintaining 65, 70 inside without that heater working hard or blowing the whole time. So my answer is, typically, if you have a heater, then a lot of these intricacies of getting the most value out of the insulation kind of becomes a moot point. It's going to be warm in there, and now you're trying to worry about condensation and moisture control and dealing with vapor, which is going to be the inherent challenge in living in a van. Yeah, and then we also get a lot of talk about vapor barriers. What vapor barrier should I use? Do I need one? And you're probably right to ask those questions. The answer is that no, with our natural wool insulation from Havelock, you don't need a vapor barrier. Vapor barriers primarily are there to prevent retard vapor flow or travel to materials that are not prepared to deal with them. And so, number one, in a van, I think it's a futile exercise to try and put a vapor barrier up, because you're never going to get it right. Not that you or I can't do it, but it's very hard to make an airtight seal in a van, if not impossible. And number two, you end up trapping the vapor on the side it really wasn't supposed to be in the first place, and now it needs an escape path. And number three, because we're using wool, this stuff loves moisture. It feeds on it. And what that really means is that sheep's wool doesn't mold. It doesn't create an ability or a surface for mold to form. It actually is activated by moisture or condensation or water. Activating meaning that it absorbs it and desorbs it. Through that process of absorbing and releasing the moisture, it moves, it gets bigger, it creates energy, it actually creates heat. You're not going to put your hand against the wall and be like, check it out, my wool's heating the wall, but it is going to help stave off the condensation and dry the product out. And that's one of the big reasons we really enjoy what we're doing here in a van, is because it works so well compared to other products. So do I need a vapor barrier? Absolutely not. Stick the wool against the wall, put the wall back on, continue on with living, have fun. Literally, that's what I do. I also get a lot of folks asking, how can I compress the wool? Can I put R20 in a 3-inch space? No, you can't. All insulation, fibrous insulation, relies on trapping air to help with R value, and wool is no different, although the wool fiber specifically Single fibers under a microscope do a great job trapping air because they have a lot of integrity to the fiber, meaning there's scale and all kinds of interesting things happen. So we don't want to squish the air out. These bats already come at the proper density, but if you were to compress it a half inch, a quarter inch, I wouldn't worry too much about it. It's not going to affect much. Personally, I don't think you really need to compromise